Funky fees, funky reads.
Let's try it. Are we safe? I think we're safe. Hello everyone, Shemai Pabba Oliver channel, and welcome to my August wrap up. In this video I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the month of August. I had a really good reading month, not necessarily in terms of what I actually read. I had two 4.5 star reads pretty early on, so that was obviously really good, and then it all kind of went downhill from there. But I really just enjoyed the process of reading this month, so I'd consider it a pretty good reading month. I also used my TBR jar prompts to pick my TBR for the whole month, which I've never done before. I normally just do that to pick one of my reads per month, and I actually got to them all, so I was really happy with that. And let's talk about them. Ow. The first book I read this month was by an author called Brandy Wells, and it's a book called Cleaner. This is a book that I bought completely uninfluenced. I saw it in Waterstones, the title and cover lured me in, and then I read the back and my interest was piqued, so I just decided to buy it. And I don't know, I don't feel like books I get like this always serve me that well. But again, kind of like I said earlier, I enjoy the process of like finding out if I'm going to enjoy a book, and yeah, that's basically it. So in this book we're following a cleaner who cleans on the night shift in an office, and she kind of sees herself as like a parental figure of all the office workers. So she like goes through their desks and replaces bad items, or like she found a guy had secret cigarettes stashed who was like a really healthy guy on the surface, and he had a secret stash of cigarettes right at the back of his desk in one of the drawers. So she like doused them all in cleaning solution and then put them back in. So she was like, he's either gonna like think they're disgusting and throw them away, or not even notice, and he'll be full of chemicals, ha ha ha. But then on the other side of that, she has staff members who she kind of wants to take under her wing, and she does little things to reward them. She leaves them goodies, and she just changes little things or decides not to change things based on how she's feeling and how she has perceived that member of staff at that desk. But the opening line sets the scene for the main character's kind of matter-of-fact nature. So let me read that to you. The opening line is, every day some rogue shitter leaves a streak of feces on the back of the toilet seat, right where his ass crack would be. So from the get-go you're like, okay, this person is no nonsense, they say it how it is, they say what they think, and that's the way it is. They are a little bit unhinged, like they obviously think they're better than everyone else, and just no one else can see it, that they're so much like above everyone else. But she's like, I don't mind, I'm going to help them through and help them see the light and see how great I am. And you know what, cleaners definitely are underappreciated and undervalued, and that rings true for this cleaner. She's definitely not appreciated or considered an important part of the work team, which is wrong, and it is a shame because cleaners are so essential to every business. So I can kind of understand her frustrations with some of the office workers. I did start to find the cleaner a little bit irritating around the page 200 mark. Not all the time, but just every now and then I was just like, ugh, why are you so entitled? Why do you think you're so much better than everyone else? And then they discover that there is trouble within the office and the company. They start to believe themselves as the saviour of the company, and they think they can fix everything, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. I kind of enjoyed this, but it was like, I feel like I can see what Brandy Wells was trying to do with this, but it just didn't hit for me in a fantastic way. Like, it was fine, but it wasn't anything particularly special. And I gave this 3.75 stars. I'm going to blow this candle out. Well, it does smell quite nice. It was starting to stress me out though. I'm going to put the light on instead. Okay, next I read a book which I did not think I was going to love, and I loved. So I have read one other book by this author who is Ali Hazelwood. I've read The Love Hypothesis, and I really didn't like that book. But this kind of seems to be the one that people... I don't know if this is the one that people like the most. I think this one is kind of different to her other books, apart from Bride, which is the most different. And one of my best friends really loved this book, and it's called Checkmate, and we're following, what's her name, Mallory, who used to love chess, but then because of something that happens that we find out later on, vowed never to play chess again. But then she gets roped into doing this tournament, and lo and behold, she falls back in love with chess. And as you can imagine, in an Ali Hazelwood book, and a book with this kind of a cover, she falls in love with a person too. This book just had me giggling, smiling and kicking my feet. It was so fun, and it made me desperately want to play chess, which I did. Ben and I went on holiday and took our little travel chessboard, and we had a couple of games while we were away, and it was so much fun. A couple of tiny things. Chapter 14 irked me because they seemed to get so angry, so like unnecessarily angry about things that to me it didn't feel necessary to get that. Like it was just 0 to 100 in my opinion, and I found that kind of irritating. But we move. I read 157 pages of this in one day, which for me is a very high number of pages to read in one day. That just shows how much I was invested in it and how much I was enjoying it. I just wanted to keep going. I questioned whether this would be a 5-star read. I settled on a 4.5 in the end. I don't know, I haven't had a 5-star read yet this year, and there are a couple that I'm like, maybe that should have been one. The main one that stands out is Eleanor Oliphant Is Completely Fine, which I read in July. I just haven't had that feeling. I am starting to wonder if it's a me thing. I don't know, but yeah, I gave this 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved this book, and now I'm confused because I thought I didn't like Ali Hazelwood, but I loved this one, so maybe I should try another one. But I don't want to be disappointed again after this one, so I just don't know. Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. Chef's kiss. And then I started to think, oh my god, life is so good, reading is so good, because I had another 4.5 star right after, Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. What a great book! First of all, what a fantastic cover. I absolutely love this cover. But yeah, this book was so good. So we're following Hazel in the early 1800s, and it's her life dream to be a surgeon. But in that time, women weren't really allowed to work, let alone work in important fields like medicine. So everyone was just kind of laughing off her dreams and ambitions, the few people that she told them to. But she finds a way to get into the famous Dr. Beecham's lectures, and she is thriving at them. She's doing a really great job. She's really enjoying it. She gets it, and then she gets kicked out. So she has to come up with another way to realise this dream of becoming a surgeon. Throughout the book, she has been bumping into another character called Jack Curra, who is what was his job? Resurrection man, which I hadn't heard of before, but it's basically someone who digs up dead bodies and steals them for money. So you can kind of get an idea from that how these two start to work together to help each other out, help themselves out. And it was just such a fun story. It is a little bit of a romance, but I would say it's more of a love story about Hazel's love for science rather than the romance between two characters. Oh, it was just so good, and it was a really good feminist nourishment. It was good for the soul, very wholesome. Really enjoyed this, and I would definitely be picking up the second book, Immortality. Thumbs up. Then we had another book which I picked up, Uninfluenced. I had found this in a charity shop like a week before. I chose the TBR, I think, and it's called Sunrise by the Sea by Jenny Colgan, and I just thought it looked like a fun summery read, so I picked it up. And yeah, this book wasn't for me. We started off, we had so many characters, I didn't really know what was happening, but I tried to kind of push through that. But then as I read more, the characters that we did have were just really annoying. And like the therapist, so Marisa, basically we've got Marisa who moves to this tiny island, kind of not really her own choice. She kind of gets kicked there, but she's like, okay, maybe this would be a good opportunity for me to deal with the grief of my grandfather passing. And she's experiencing a lot of very significant anxiety, just not leaving the house whatsoever. So she makes this big move to the tiny island, which, I don't know, in my experience of anxiety, I don't think I would be able to do that. But I guess everyone's experience is different, and if she just desperately wanted to get away, I kind of understand. So she starts seeing this therapist online, who is so unprofessional. They've got their kids screaming at them in the background. They're like getting their laptop camera turned off for them by their kid. Like, I just found that so irritating to read, because how can that be okay? How can that be a funny plotline in a story when it's I don't know. I didn't find it funny, I just found it annoying. And then Marisa herself has a very noisy neighbour next door. He's a piano teacher, and that's keeping her up, and it's just annoying her, which is fair enough, that would be annoying, but she's just straight up nasty and rude about it, and I wasn't really a fan of that. I decided to DNF this around page 80 because I just thought, I read for fun and I'm not having it. So that's just could be the end of it. So I moved on instead to a completely different book, a what the hell kind of a book that just had me like, the whole way through. And when I finished it, I was just like, what? And that book is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica, translated from Spanish to English by Sarah Moses. This is a like dystopia about Marcos, who works in a meat processing plant for special meat, which is human meat, because all animals were killed due to a virus. And there's a bit of conspiracy around this, because some people are saying that the virus was like created or just never even existed but made up by the government to deal with overpopulation. I don't think we really get Marcos's opinion on that, but he does not like working in the processing plant, and he knows that he can't say anything about it because society is not accepting of people who question this scenario. They call it special meat, and they call the people, do they just call them bodies? They have a name for it. They do not call them humans. That is the most important thing. I can't remember. Maybe they just call them the males and females. I can't remember. But it was kind of not that hard to imagine it happening. Like, obviously it's not going to happen for a long time, but it could happen, which was really scary, because it's just, well, it's scary. It's a horrible thought. There are a few parts of this that I don't think I liked morally, but for the most part they made for a good story. So it's kind of give and take, I guess. I don't know. I finished this feeling so unsure what to rate it. I gave it a 3.5 in the end, but it took me a good few days to decide on that. Probably a couple of weeks actually. But there's a quote that I really liked, which says, "It doesn't matter if you fall, if you were a bird for even just a few seconds." And I really liked that quote. So those are my thoughts on Tender is the Flesh. At this point I decided to DNF the audiobook I was reading, which was Lady in Waiting by Anne Glenconner. This is a book that I put on my like to access TBR a really long time ago after reading this book, Upstairs and Downstairs by Hilda Newman, which is about Hilda Newman. It's a memoir about her life as a lady's maid, so like being a servant for someone very wealthy. And a couple of the reviews of that I'd seen had suggested reading Lady in Waiting as well. Yeah, this wasn't for me. To be fair, since then I have kind of gone off. I have mixed feelings about the royal family to begin with, but I enjoy reading about people's lives and people's lived experiences. So I thought I'd still give it a go because I had it on my Audible. Yeah, worth giving a go. It's narrated by Anne Glenconner herself, and her voice is so posh, like saying off instead of off, and plastic, which I tried to see past. I really did, because I don't want to judge someone based on the way they talk, but I found that quite difficult to listen to at times. Yeah, this is a lady who is really quite far removed from the majority of people's experiences and lives. And she talks about how she didn't have a lot of money growing up, but then she claims that her and her husband were brought up by nannies and governesses, and she didn't know a single mother who fed her own children. They buy an island in the Caribbean, then move to London. Once they've decided they're done with that, move to London to a house of 26 bedrooms and 16 bathrooms, which I don't think she ever says that she didn't have money as an adult, but I just don't know that she truly understood the concept of not having a lot of money. Basically, this lady, Anne Glenconner, was, I think, the lady's maid to Princess Margaret, but I never got to the point in the story where that part happened, where she got that job. And like one of the comments that she said that really irritated me was a pair of overweight police officers. Like, why was it necessary to comment on their weight? I just don't believe that it was. That annoys me. But there were some interesting parts. Like, I didn't realise that Bridgerton was actually quite accurate in terms of the debutantes, the getting presented to the Queen, which is another thing. She got presented to the Queen as the potential diamond. I don't think it's called the diamond in this scenario like it is in Bridgerton, but people with not a lot of money, I don't know if she ever describes herself as poor, but she definitely says they didn't have a lot of money. Those people wouldn't be put forward to be presented to the Queen as the diamond, I don't think, of the season. So parts of it were kind of interesting, but I just couldn't bear to listen to it anymore. And the thing that really did it in for me at the end was there was so many wet mouth sounds. Like she was saying, and this one, it was disgusting. I hated it. So I had to DNF that. Then I moved on to a book that I have been looking forward to for a really long time, and I actually thought it had 5-star potential, which is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is a book that I bought in 2022, I think. Yeah, 2022. I think I'd seen it online, I'd seen it recommended somewhere, and then a friend of mine saw like my little haul on Instagram, had said, oh, I really loved that book, so I've been really looking forward to this. And when I started it, I felt so good, and I was just like reminded that YA makes me so happy. I just really enjoyed it at the very beginning, and then but then like as in the first page, then throughout the rest of chapter 1 there was a little bit too much Bobo talk for me. However, Noah is a teenage boy, so it probably was quite accurate about his thoughts and feelings, but it wasn't really a comfortable read for me as an adult. I really love the little interjections Noah gets of his art ideas. So Noah is a painter and he likes to draw and paint. He's an artist, and he'll have little like you can read the things happening, and then they have a different font where it's like thought, idea, paint, like this painting. And so a few examples of that are a series, Boy Inside a Box of Darkness, and Self-Portrait, A Window Flies Open in My Chest. And they like so perfectly captured the way you could tell that Noah was feeling based off the context and what had just happened, and that was so clever, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, especially at the start, like I just said, but throughout the book, Noah is just a really horny teenager, and yeah, that is not the nicest to read. So here's another quote that I really liked. "A painting is both exactly the same and entirely different every single time you look at it. That's the way it is between Jude and me now." Which I think is such a good quote. So Jude and Noah are twins, and you're split between a few different timelines when they're younger, and they're really close, and then they move apart, different things happen, they both intentionally hurt each other, but you can see kind of why. And it's a story about both of them as individuals and as twins, and their relationships with each other, with other people, and how that affects them and their lives. Then I was starting to lose interest, I'm not gonna lie. The kind of like third quarter of this, I was just like, why is this still going on? Why isn't this book finished? But then I wrote that the way Noah talks is so romantic, like he feels so deeply, and it really comes across in his like monologue and the chapters that you get in his point of view. So it was kind of moving between me really enjoying it and me not enjoying it so much. Like there were still good things that were happening, but it was a bit like this. I just think this book was a lot longer than it needed to be. The last kind of 80 to 100 pages were quite fast paced and exciting, but the bit before that, I just don't think it really needed to be there, and definitely not be that long. Having said all of that, I do think I would have loved this when I was about 14. I just don't think it was relatable for me anymore, which is fine. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes sometimes. I think I gave this a 3.75 star rating, but I found it very difficult to decide what to rate this because it was so up and down for me. I'm glad I read it though. And then I read my last book of the month, which was the joint poll winner with this one and Anatomy, The Wife Who Got a Life by Tracy Bloom, which the title, the cover, the blurb are giving Live, Laugh, Love. They're giving kind of 40s-year-old woman and like, I don't know. They're giving a specific vibe in my mind that I don't really know how to articulate. But this book, like, there was a lot to it that I didn't like. Was this book well written? No, 100% no. The grammar in terms of like the past and present tense was all over the place. It's all told in the same timeline, but grammatically it moves between past and present, like within the same paragraph sometimes, which is just not good. The content, I don't know. Like, it's about a mum and wife basically. Can't relate to either of those things. She's a lot older than me. I think she's 47. She's got 2 kids and a husband. She's got a part-time job that she does from home, and she is just really not fulfilled in her life. So a couple of things. Her son is awful. He's so rude. He is not a good person. Her husband is useless. He's a mansplainer, and he is so like gender stereotypical that it was unpleasant to read, and I found him really annoying. But then part of me is like, but Kathy, hun, you've like submissed to this. You've kind of let this happen. She's annoyed that he doesn't help around the house, but she's been with him for all these years and she doesn't really seem to be doing anything about it. She's not fulfilled in her life, but what's she doing about it? But basically at the start of the book, she decides to do something about it. So I can't be too mad about that. We all have to start somewhere. And I'm happy that she finally decided to do that. I mean, I love a bit of self-love and growth. So this, in a weird way, was kind of like a guilty pleasure book for me. Should I have enjoyed it? Probably not. But I kind of did. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it was not a good book. And I think I settled on a 2.75 star for this. I actually got through it pretty quick, but there was a lot to it that I didn't really like. I mean, a whole chapter about cutting out carbs is not really ideal reading for someone who's very anti-diet culture. But like I said, still kind of loved it. So those are all the books that I read in August. I had a really great reading month, like I said. Just really enjoyed the process of reading this month and having a lot of time to do it, taking the time and making the time to do a lot of reading. I'm hoping this video is like better quality because I've changed the camera settings on my phone because I realised they were uploading really blurry. So fingers crossed this one's a bit better. But that's it. I hope you have a lovely September and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!